Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to the last installment of vocabulary words and concepts from the Byzantine Empire. And we're actually looking more now toward Russia completely. We've moved from talking about the Byzantine Empire and its distinct differences from the Western Roman Empire, its growth and spread into the East, and then lots of cool hand movements, and then finally as Russia started to develop. So this is the early development of Russia. And in this series, we'll look at Russian aristocracy, or the boyars, and mostly we'll be looking at the impact of the Mongols, or as the Russians called them, the Tatars. So let's get right to it. First off, having been well established at Kiev, the Russian political and economic activity and cultural life was flourishing for a while. And then as time drug on in the 10th, 11th, 12th centuries, the Byzantine Empire was starting to fade a little bit, and partially because of the growth of the Seljuk Turks, the Crusades, and then finally the Mongols. But we started to see that Russia was starting to kind of fade a little bit as well. And the reason for this is because of kind of bickering and political squabbling that was taking place. So first, the boyars, these Russian aristocrats, that's what they are, the boyars, Russian aristocrats. They were the landowning class, and they held considerable influence over the peoples of Russia because they controlled, for the most part, the land that was being farmed by the peasants, the peasant farmers. And as time went on, they started to kind of break out and form their own principalities or districts, kind of regionalizing the rule, so that it was kind of messy when it came to who was in complete charge at Kiev. Um, and then the final straw really came with the Mongols. So the Tatars is the word given to the Mongol invaders to Russia. The Russians called them the Tatars. So just know that the Mongols were the Tatars to the Russians. So what? So what was the big deal about these Mongols taking over in Russia? Well, first of all, it kind of completely squished and put like pushed the pause button on Russian development, especially when it came to trade and economics, because the Mongols were kind of cutting them off from everyone else in the West. They were cut off from the Byzantines, who were already struggling, and cultural life was just stagnant. Things weren't being produced. Political uh, life also kind of went downhill because these Mongols, in a sense, were in charge, and they weren't in charge by directly ruling over them as kings or princes, or becoming these Mongol Russian overlords. They basically just took money. That's what they wanted. As long as the Russian princes and principalities and officials were able to provide the Mongols with payment, then they were fine. They let them kind of do things as they wanted to do them. But this was really rough on the Russians because all of their money that they could use for development and further growth as a culture and as a society was being given to the Mongols. So this lasted for about 200 years, from the 1200s to the 1400s, until the Russians were able to actually overthrow these Mongols. And when that did finally happen, and they were able to gain strength enough, and or the Mongols being weak enough for them to do that, um, they kind of reestablished themselves as a strong central authority again. And this time, the Russian center was at Moscow, and so we started to see this shift all the way up until we get to Moscow, which is the modern center of Russian cultural, political, economic life. And so these Tatars really had a huge impact on Russian development, as it was just kind of starting anyways. It kind of got them from the beginning. They fell behind the West in a lot of different ways, and it would take them a little while to catch back up. But we will discuss that in our next unit of study. For now, I want you to be awesome, and I will talk to you later.